here. I'll wait for people to show up. We're going to go over our readings. From Sunday, June 9th. I'll just wait for people to show up. And so we're gonna jump into the readings from Sunday, June 9th. Welcome. This is the first week that we're doing our review on Tuesday night. And if you are arriving, just say hello in the chat. When we have about maybe 6 people, we'll go ahead. We're here, it's working. Okay, so when we have about 6 people minimum, we'll start. So let me just remind everybody that the theme, okay, good, I'm glad to hear. The theme for June has been the divine power of the protective paternal, and the sermon was on divine assertion, which is about asserting ourselves through our divine inspiration that kind of motivates us to assert ourselves. And I just want to let you all know that you're welcome to ask any questions. I'm going to go ahead and kind of be in a lecture format, but feel free to ask any questions in the chat or make any comments if you like. I'll kind of look up and check. So the first reading was taken from a church website in Santa Anita Church. It's called Santa Anita Church in Arcadia, California, which actually was a religious science church. So assertiveness is a quality that we might not think of as associated with the divine so much, because we think of the divine probably mostly as like gentle and calm, which is true. In the Science of Mind Church in Nashville, when I used to attend there, our Reverend Mitch would say, Reverend Mitch Johnson, he's still around and still teaching, he would say, treat and move your feet, because that was something that we would say in Science of Mind, like praying and praying and praying and receiving guidance is what we want to do, it's what we must do. And so we feel that when we're in a receptive state, that's spiritual mind treatment, which is affirmative prayer that Ernest Holmes introduced us to, and others introduced us to also during that time in the 30s when he was living and teaching. So treat and move your feet. A spiritual mind treatment is a form of affirmative prayer. So once we state the thing that we want to be so as if it's so, which is affirmative prayer, it's already so, and I see it as so, and I feel it as so, which is truly the great spiritual teachers of all time from anywhere would teach us, that it's by having this sense of what it would be like, what it feels like in an affirming way, that is a way to pray with true faith. Good to see you. That's a way to pray with true faith. That's a challenge that we always have as humans. Like if I have to see it in order to believe it. And like, Wayne Dyer has a book called When You Believe It. I think it was when you believe it, then you'll see it. I think that was the name of one of his books. When you believe it, then you'll receive it. You don't have to see it to believe it. You have to believe it first. And that's the challenge that we have. Because it seems kind of ludicrous sometimes. Like, what do you mean? If I can't see it, what am I, just kidding myself? Right? No, we have to believe it, and then we'll see it. But sometimes in order to see it, oftentimes in order to see it, we have to say the affirmative, we have to pray in the affirmative, which is like treating, like a spiritual mind treatment, and then we have to move our feet, then we have to get into action, and that's what I'm referencing when I say divine assertion. It's not all just sitting there doing not very much. There's 2 steps. So in this reading from the Santa Anita Church in Arcadia, California, speaking on assertiveness, assertiveness is speaking one's truth with peaceful confidence. It is discerning the song we are given to sing. We're all given a song to sing. We're all given a certain type of energy to bring into the world, which is as unique as our fingerprints. And there are some cultures and some tribes that believe that every person who is born has their own unique song. So it is discerning the song we are given to sing. Not necessarily that you have to be a musician or a singer. It's a certain quality of vibration that you hold. And using our talents as a gift to the world. So discerning the song we were given to sing. We all have something to bring forth from us, from within us, every one of us. And using our talents as a gift to the world, we have the courage to speak up for what we believe is right. That's that assertion, to speak up. And I just want to mention that it's very unhealthy when we don't speak up when we need to speak up. It's unhealthy to our spirit, it's unhealthy to our body, and as we all know, sometimes there are times in life when it means a difficult conversation. But we have to have the courage to speak up, and we've all had the feeling of, I finally said it and I feel better. I said it, and I asserted that, and I feel better. Not in a hurtful way, but in a really truthful and honest way. And sometimes it's about having the courage to speak up and say, I love you, because we believe that it's right. I did mention, I suggested on Sunday that, I don't know if it was on Sunday, but there's a movie that I saw on Gaia, Gaia, that kind of metaphysical app with documentaries about John Robbins, the son of the man who started Baskin Robbins, and how he came to this time in his life where he finally, after a life of difficulty with his father, who was very much into money and just money, got to a place where he had the courage, he developed the courage to bring his father later in his life to tell him that he loved him. And he got him to say it back too. So we have the courage to speak up for what we believe is right. We tell the truth about what is just. Hello. Assertiveness comes from knowing our own worth. Sometimes we have to know our own worth to assert. We have to know that it matters, that we are divine children of a loving God that supports us, and we tell the truth about what we feel is just. Assertiveness comes from knowing our own worth and honoring the dignity of who we are. We stand on our own holy ground and set boundaries without guilt. We never beg or make demands. We ask for what we need by making simple, positive requests. We treat ourselves with respect and expect respect at all times. And this is up to each and every one of us. We hear often, especially nowadays, I first heard it on Oprah, do you teach people how to treat you? And assertiveness, divine assertiveness that's part of it. We teach people how to treat us. If somebody's treating us horribly, it's up to us to assert that I'm respectful of you, and I ask for you to be respectful of me, And if that's not something that can happen, the assertiveness and the self-respect, and to feel the dignity, the assertiveness and the self-respect and the self-honor, those things can give us the courage to come to a place where we teach people how to treat us. And we make it very clear that we're taking a stand for treating them the same in return. But that's up to us. And I think it's worth noting here that I've met so many people over my 30 plus years of working with people. A lot of people that are exceedingly unhappy, and I want to help people if we find ourselves in these positions, because we're all human, who have been afraid to speak up their entire lives. I've met a lot of women that were brought up kind of in the old school way of, women should be not heard and, that. So just to keep in mind. Oh, thank you, Terry, for putting that documentary up. I recommend that documentary to everyone. It's Love or Money documentary. Check that out, and it's on Gaia. And that's John Robbins, the son. He taught his father about love, and he was really adamant about it, and not a forceful way, just in a way where he kind of took a stand within himself. My life is not going to be about inheriting millions and millions and millions of dollars. Good to have you here. Yeah, so Zircon is saying, I've been treated second class my whole life. It's about teaching people how to treat you. And oftentimes in childhood, we get the message that we're not to say anything. But as we grow older, we really have to learn that it's up to us to take care of our mental and spiritual and even physical well-being. It's too stressful to the energy system, to the physical system, to withhold what our truth is. We all want to be treated with respect. We all want to be seen and heard and recognized, right? We all need that. We all need to know that we're seen and we're heard. So assertiveness sometimes means just acknowledging that I'm a human being and I need to be seen and heard. So we treat ourselves with respect and expect respect at all times. There's nothing overbearing about that. We keep our word with ourselves, and we keep our word with others. It starts with us, being assertive with ourselves. And being definitive. And being really not willing to be in the nebulous zone with people when we really know that clarity is the best approach. When we agree to act with integrity with ourselves, when we agree to act with integrity with others, I just want to tell you that builds self-esteem. That we feel good about ourselves, we feel dignified. We feel respectful of the divine and of ourselves when we act with integrity. And we owe it to ourselves to live with integrity. It makes us feel better about everything. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. It's nice to see that you're here. It's okay if you're a little late. So we're just going over the readings from Sunday. This is the first Tuesday that I've made the second part of our Tuesday Grassroots of Democracy meetings to be on this channel. So thank you for coming. Make sure you're subscribed. Integrity is underrated. I agree. I learned about integrity really, maybe when I was about 20, I started to really hear that word a lot and learn about that word. And it really has taken me very far in my life. To act with integrity and to expect others to act with integrity, we've got to raise the bar a little bit. Show people what they're capable of and show ourselves what we're capable of. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to put them up. So the second reading is from The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. I had a couple different ones I wanted to look at for this week from Ernest Holmes. This is the one that I chose. The other one was a little bit involved, but if I have it right here, I could perhaps reference it. Yeah, I might do that. Okay, the self-realization. Thank you, Gwen. The self-realizations of spirit constitute its active being. So the self-realizations, realizing that we're spirit, inherent in that, inherent in that is our active being. It's part of who we are. And spirit acts upon itself. Since we could not conceive of an unconscious consciousness, we could not imagine an inactive consciousness. Ernest Holmes is saying here, and this is worth kind of reflecting on a regular basis, that spirit is always actively creating something. The spirit, so to back up, we could not imagine an inactive consciousness. Consciousness is active. It's always creating something. The spirit, by reason of its infinite capacity to know itself, a limitless capacity to know itself. I often say to clients in my spiritual counseling practice, in the realm of possibilities in the entire universe, whatever it is that that person wants is one of those possibilities. We have to expand our awareness that spirit is always creating. So the spirit, by reason of its infinite capacity to know itself, must always be acting upon itself. This action is what we call creation. It's an assertive energy. Creation is eternally going on. And I mentioned last week, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before, that Ernest Holmes, in that reading from 2 Sundays ago, Ernest Holmes was saying that it seems, I'm just paraphrasing, it seems strange perhaps that the same law of the universe that can create so much discord can also create so much harmony, so much beauty, right? And what he was speaking of was that we use this divine to create something always, because it's always creating. So we have to really kind of train ourselves. We have to be aware that when we're finding ourselves in a negative, pessimistic state, that we're using the law to create something negative, and we need to stop it in its tracks and understand spirit is always present, omnipotent, always around us and within us. It's always creating something. So we don't want it to create something we don't want by default because we were too lazy to change our thoughts around it. It's always creating something. Or I've heard it said that the divine always says yes. So be careful what we're asking for, right? I mentioned Reverend Mitch Johnson at the Science of Mind Church in Nashville that I attended. And he said that he felt like he needed to have more faith, so he kept doing spiritual mind treatments for faith, and what kept showing up were opportunities for him to buckle down and have faith. So then he stopped praying for faith. That always kind of stuck with me. Careful what you ask for. Creation is eternally going on. It may stop in one place and begin in another, but it is always going on. And as we know that God will always be God, we know that creation will never cease. This is the meaning of those mystical words, world without end. This is what I really appreciate about Ernest Holmes. He often takes excerpts from sacred scripture and explains them. World without end is referring to those mystical words that creation will never cease. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. It's a law of physics. This point must not be overlooked, for there are people who believe that someday creation will cease. If you want to go really down the rabbit hole of quantum physics, you can find a lot of information. You can do the research on that. Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed. So this point must not be overlooked, for there are people who believe that someday creation will cease. No more unphilosophical position could be taken than to suppose that the activity of spirit would ever cease. There is another philosophical delusion that many believe in, namely that there are periods when spirit does not create. This is impossible. Spirit's always creating. Since we cannot conceive of a time when spirit will cease to be conscious of itself. Its self-consciousness is its action. Its self-awareness. That's its action. Being, knowing that anything can be created with the spiritual substance, the spiritual energy. Its self-consciousness is its action. We might imagine that it would not create more worlds like the one in which we live, but to suppose that it could stop creating would be to suppose that it could stop being. So it will not create exactly the same thing. It's always creating, but to suppose that spirit could stop creating would be to suppose that it could stop being. Ernest Holmes lived around the time that Albert Einstein was around, and all those guys, I don't know if he knew him personally, but they would be making just scientific discoveries about that. I have a question here. So that's how it works. How about the person that is trying to fix everything that happens and forgets about themselves? That's an example of not being assertive with one's own treating others, teaching others how to treat them. So somebody who goes around trying to fix everything that happens and forgets about themselves, that's generally, yes, it's Sunday again, Electrostorm. This is our Tuesday meeting that I switched over to our new channel. If somebody's trying to fix everything that happens and forgets about themselves, that is often a lack of self-esteem and attempting to make up for that lack of self-esteem by being everything to everyone. That's a good question. So, hey Darren, it's a good question. A lot of people fall into that trap. Unfortunately, a lot of people get sick from falling into that trap. A lot of cancers have been traced to people not keeping their energy for themselves and giving it all away just energetically. So just thank you guys for showing up. I'm glad you're here. Just, keep in mind that it's exceedingly important, and it's not selfish in a negative way. It's exceedingly important. It's amazing how many people have a hard time getting this. I think we all do. That we're no good really to anybody unless we're taking care of ourselves. Using the analogy of like a well, if you're thirsty, I'm thirsty, I had olives for dinner. If you're thirsty and you're thirsty, but you have a well with water in it, and you give all that water, maybe it's limited, and you give it to everybody else, there's none left for you. Or the analogy that's overused, that when you're on an airplane and the flight attendant gives you the drill, in case of emergency, the oxygen mask will drop down, put it on yourself before your child. Or before the person that you're looking after, if you're looking after somebody. Can God start smiting the people who keep saying they're doing bad stuff to us in His name? Well, that's a person who's been misled. That's a person whose psyche is very fear-based, and there is such a thing as evil in the world. And the best way to combat that from an energy standpoint is to be the vibrational frequency of love, which is why we talk a lot about forgiveness in Church of Spirituality, as you know, if you attend every week. That when we decide that we will not harbor resentment, and people that are hateful and evil and horrible, I mentioned recently that I've been thinking a lot about when Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." What was actually being said there was they don't know, first of all, they don't know what they're doing to their frequency. That's my interpretation. And second of all, that the laziness, the refusal to do what's right is actually ignorant, in the sense of that causes harm to themselves. It causes harm to themselves. So Darren's talking about, needing a slower pace. Yeah. I struggle with that all the time. I like to go fast, I struggle with that all the time because I feel like I have to go fast and get this done and get that done. And, just paying attention to the quality of energy is real important. So if we're paying attention to the quality of the energy that we hold, those people that are evil and nasty and want to bring you down, the best thing we can do is raise our own frequency and pay little or no attention to them. I mean, we have to push back and we have to take a stand against the evil and be strong and assertive in setting a boundary there. But if we get into the resentment and the anger, then we're bringing our vibrational frequency down also. And when Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do," the longer I do this teaching and this church and everything, the more kind of insights kind of come. And to me, I'm starting to think that what that meant also was that those people might have terrible next lifetimes coming to them. And they don't know what they're doing to themselves. Or they don't know what kind of negative situations they're creating for themselves by being mired. Electrostorm doesn't struggle with being slow. It comes naturally. That's funny. A lot of people become mired in that, negativity, and misery leads to misery. Evil just kind of implodes upon itself. It's like they're not doing themselves any favors. And when the evil comes, it can be viewed as an opportunity for us to practice love. And tonight, I may even leave you with, I got kind of a channeled message the other night, and it was about this. Let me leave you with this tonight, unless anybody has any questions. I intend for these meetings on Tuesday to be 30 minutes. So I'll look up after I read this. This is a message from my guides that speak to me. And your guides speak to you too. I'm not the only one that has guides. Because I was really praying, I was really asking why we were going through so much difficulty with all this evil that we have to look at. Diane is saying, "I had an epiphany last year when I had hospital dementia. I wrestled with my demons until it was clear hate takes up too much energy." Wow, that's a big deal. Good for you. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to drag ourselves down. I teach people all the time. And by the way, if you wanted to sign up for spiritual life coaching, it's on my website, psychicannetteDion.com, if you feel moved to do that. It's powerful stuff. But I really have had to learn and to teach people to divorce the evil people, to really just know, to have that sense of self-preservation, that you don't owe people that are nasty and evil anything. And I've actually gotten people to divorce their own families, because when it's a diminishing return situation, we only have this one life. We want to make it count, not bog ourselves down with the negativity. So know that you're raising the collective vibration, whether you see it and know it or not, right? Yeah, I'd rather be happy than angry because it takes less energy. Exactly. So I'm going to read you this, and I'll leave you with this tonight. This is what my guide said when I was struggling with what do we do with all this evil that we keep seeing and having to tolerate. And the message was, why this is so difficult is that the universe wants us to dig very, very deeply for the love. See, when we have a lot of evil and a lot of darkness, it forces us to go deeper, to go into the love, because we know that love heals everything. We need to feel more intensely, by digging deeply. The need to dig very deeply for the love is that the evil that we're facing creates this need that's very strong. We need to feel more intensely. We have been collectively numb. This that we're going through is a wake-up call. We have to be at the point where we deeply crave the love. We have to want it so badly in the face of what we are bearing witness to. When a critical mass of people are wanting and praying for it fervently together, the love, then and only then things will shift. So we really have to amp up our desire for love, and we have to create love. Use that creative, energy, the creative universe, the creative law. So use it to create love. So when a critical mass of people are wanting and praying for it fervently together, then and only then things will shift. Not a moment before. This is what is going on. We will make it through. We will be more awake too. All of us will be. All right. So we went a couple minutes longer. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. I'm so grateful that you're here. We have about the same number of people that were at church on Sunday, so I'm really glad that you're here. Please share this with your friends. Share Church of Spirituality with your friends and family. And know that this work is donation driven, so my P.O. box is in the description. And churchofspirituality.online is where you can also donate and get the church program too. All right. I appreciate you all for being here, and we'll see you again very soon. And as we say, namaste. Go out there and spread the love. Okay. Be good.